Chairman Baruch, President Gray, fellow trustees, faculty, staff, families, friends, graduates, good morning. I can't resist mentioning that at my graduation in 1958, I sat right there, exactly where you're sitting now, surrounded by these same trees and these same historic buildings, though they are much more historic now. A few years ago, I got an email out of the blue from a polite man named Peter J. Smith, whom I had never met. Would I mind, he asked, if he included the 1983 commencement speech I gave here at Hollins in an anthology of commencement speeches he was about to publish. He apologized for not being able to pay me, but he said my speech would be in good company. He was including speeches by 4 presidents of the United States, other famous Americans, Mother Teresa, and the Dalai Lama. I promptly replied to Peter J. Smith that I would not only give him permission to include my remarks, I would happily pay him a small stipend to do so. He politely declined my offer. Later, on reflection, I imagined that before publication, someone would vet these selections and that a discerning editor would scratch my speech. And for several months, I thought no more about this. Then a book arrived on my stoop from Scribner entitled Onward and subtitled 25 Years of Advice, Exhortation, and Inspiration from America's Best Commencement Speeches. The entries were excerpts from 220 speeches made in the last 25 years of the 20th century. And guess what? When I looked at the year 1983, there were indeed excerpts from my only other commencement speech here at Hollins, nestled in with excerpts that same year from E.L. Doctorow, Margaret Atwood, Coretta Scott King, and Meryl Streep. Why am I telling you this boastful story? You may think I'm edging toward an obligatory bullet of advice, something such as, if you don't toot your own horn, no one else will do it for you. But actually, no, I'm not even sure I believe that. This morning, in fact, I plan to give advice short shrift. When the seniors honored me with their invitation, I went to my bookshelf, took down one of the dozen or so copies of Onward I just happened to own, and read it all the way through. This was a numbing mistake, because all the advice that should be given is given in Onward, and usually with far more grace and eloquence than I possess. I recommend you check this book out on Amazon, where it is now available for a song. I will return to the book shortly to help make a point on the topic of this talk. My topic is not advice, but a question. The question is, what is Hollins? I was asked this question 51 years ago, memorably, in New York City shortly after I graduated. With my degree in hand, I had gone to Manhattan to find a job. Early on, I answered an ad in the New York Times and soon found myself at an employment agency, sitting in front of a man who was, of course, smoking a cigar. He looked up from my resume and asked me that question, what is Hollins? I probably told him it was a small liberal arts college for women in Virginia. Whatever I said, he took it to mean it was like Smith College, which was a good thing apparently. And he sent me along to meet the people with the job opening at Standard Oil Company of New Jersey, where I got that all-important first job. You too will be asked some version of this question, what is Hollins? Probably many times once you leave this place. And if you say it is a small liberal arts university in Virginia, with undergraduate programs for women and co-ed graduate programs, you will be missing an opportunity. Hollins, of course, is distinctive in many ways. It has all these amazing teachers seated up here on my right, some of whom you are going to remember forever. That in itself is not so unusual. Here's what is. They are going to remember you. Never take for granted that you had the good sense to choose a university at which you would actually get to know the faculty. A frequent lament of professors at large, highly prestigious universities is that when students ask them to write recommendations for, say, graduate schools, the professors have absolutely no idea who the students are. As an added bonus, most of you have gotten to know your president, and she you, which would be a rare opportunity at any university, but is a special privilege at Hollins now, because there is no more effective president and no finer role model than Nancy Oliver Gray. I know that many of you and your parents have borrowed and sacrificed for your Hollins education, and I just want to underscore that you have gotten something very valuable in return. Hollins at the undergraduate level is also special because it is for women only. This says something about our mission and our focus, but it also says something about you. The writer and director, Nora Ephron, who is more or less my vintage, as in Paleolithic, is a Wellesley graduate. When she spoke at Wellesley's commencement in 1996, she told the seniors that in her day, many of us went to women's colleges because it was what you did in those days. She added, just the fact that you chose to come to a single-sex college shows you are smarter than we were, end quote. How did you resist the mass allure of big universities with their winning teams on television, their mascots and cheerleaders, and their adorable jumping bean students in the stands? You are uncommon women, not proud followers. What could be rarer than a student body of independent thinkers, each having access to a tailor-made education? Moving now from the merely distinctive to the utterly unique, no other institution of higher learning in America has Tinker Day and Ada, two of the weirdest traditions ever devised by womankind. I've always loved Hollins' healthy appetite for wackiness and its advanced institutional sense of humor. And you may find that, as I have, that Hollins is envied for this. Really though, the overarching thing that sets Hollins apart, the answer you might give when asked what is Hollins, is that Hollins is distinguished by the achievements of its graduates. 4 have won Pulitzer Prizes. 1 single-handedly changed the landscape for women in politics by inventing Emily's List. Graduates hold top positions in the news divisions of NBC and CBS, and 1 has long been a familiar face on ABC. We have our share of doctors and lawyers and successful businesswomen, in the financial and fashion worlds especially, and entrepreneurs too. Graduates making money, making everything from clothes to books, to outdoor furniture to cake. Just 1 graduate was the first woman ever to be publisher of successively Life, People, and Time magazines. 1 is a path-breaking scientist at Rockefeller University. Another was a college president and is now a vice president at Yale. Graduates who are dancers pop up in the New York Times with regularity, as do reviews of work by the small army of Hollins graduates who are poets and writers. One of the nation's most famous photographers has 2 degrees from Hollins, and other Hollins artists sell their paintings and sculptures at prices I wish I could afford. Other Hollins graduates are known and widely admired for their professional or volunteer roles in their community. Traveling around the U.S. on behalf of the Hollins Campaign for Women Who Are Going Places, I can tell you that in cities like Tampa and Jacksonville and Atlanta and Dallas and Richmond and Washington and even San Diego, our alumni are leading citizens. They play top roles in the Chamber of Commerce or the Community Foundation or the ballet or the museum or in hospitals or hospice, libraries, environmental groups, historic preservation, their churches, the schools. Hollins alumni are standouts, highly visible, doing transforming things. How remarkable is this? One of our nation's great assets is that some 60 million Americans have baccalaureate degrees. In that vast firmament, you can count a mere 12,000 living graduates of Hollins, just 2/100ths of 1%. We are only one in every 5,000. A smattering so small that by all statistical measures, we should be invisible. And yet there we are, outshining ourselves. The thing I left out of the story about the book Onward is that mine was not the only Hollins commencement address in that collection of the 220 best. There are, in fact, 3 others, all by Hollins graduates. In 1993, there is novelist Lee Smith, class of 1967. She shared space that year with Ronald Reagan, Jodie Foster, and John Updike. In 1995, there is M.L. Flynn, class of 1973, and senior producer of NBC Nightly News, along with Bill Clinton, Václav Havel, and Gloria Steinem. And in 1996, there is Wendy Walker, class of 1975, longtime executive producer of The Larry King Show, sandwiched in with George Bush, Cornel West, and Mary Higgins Clark. I believe that all 4 of us, as commencement speakers here, were inspired by the strong sense of connection that most Hollins graduates have to this place and to the way we were educated here. Moreover, graduates have increasingly made close connections to students like you. I know that some members of this senior class have worked at internships provided by Hollins graduates, stayed in the homes of Hollins graduates while working at those internships, or been entertained by graduates when you were in Atlanta or New York or in the Triangle in North Carolina, where I live. And as an aside, let me just say that I wish all of you could hear the nice things your employers say behind your back. Now at last you're about to graduate and join the ranks of the 12,000. Your timing, I needn't mention, is terrible. But there will always be a market for smart, hungry, talented Hollins graduates. And you can count on Hollins alumni to help you when they can. In closing, here's some help from 3 of them. Advice straight from the pages of Onward. From Wendy Walker. Take any job to get a foot in the door. Work harder than the next guy. Come early and stay late. If you don't understand something, don't fake it. Ask questions and more questions. Treat your peers with respect and help them as much as you can. From M.L. Flynn. Don't panic. The waves of self-doubt and anxiety you have been suffering from and will continue to be paralyzed by for weeks, months, though I trust not years, is known as post-college depression. We have all had it. You will survive. From Lee Smith. Whenever your life seems hardest, there is the chance to find deeper and greater powers within yourself. I leave you with this final thought. There's no better measure of an educational institution's value than the achievements of its graduates. Starting minutes from now, graduates means you. So go out and do something wonderful with your lives. What is Hollins? Hollins is all of us. Hollins is you. Thank you.
And now, would Wyndham Robertson please step forward? Wyndham, from the time that you arrived here as a first-year student more than 50 years ago until today, you have truly personified what it means to be a Hollins woman. After graduating in 1958, you went to New York and worked tirelessly and fearlessly to earn the respect and recognition in the male-dominated world of print journalism. Ultimately, you rose to become the first female editor at Fortune magazine and were instrumental in placing a much-needed spotlight on the changing role of women in our society. Your pioneering efforts at Fortune were just the beginning. You went on to become the first female vice president of the University of North Carolina, where you were in the vanguard of recruiting and retaining women in the university's administration. Justifiably, you are highly regarded as a woman who not only succeeded in her own right, but never wavered from passionately advocating for women who possessed talent and expertise and just wanted the chance to prove what they could do, whether it was in the media, higher education, or beyond. Through the years, your deep affection for Hollins has touched us all. The many ways in which you have so generously given of yourself has had an impact on her students and her campus that is simply immeasurable. Your belief in the university's mission will continue to resonate for years to come. Today, Wyndham Robertson, in recognition of your remarkable leadership, vision, and accomplishments, Hollins University is privileged to bestow upon you the degree of Doctors of Laws, honoris causa. It's not raining up here, is it? Thank you. Congratulations, Dr. Robertson.